Hey everyone, Asty here, and I'm so excited to be making this video about TagScript. And if you don't know what TagScript is, it is the language made for the Discord bot CarlBot, and it allows you to make your own custom commands. And if you don't know what a custom command is, it is basically like a Discord bot command, but it's your own. You make everything you want, the content is completely custom, and you can specify arguments. We'll see in this video that arguments are the words inputted by the user after they type the command. And specifically today, we'll be talking about the switch method. What is the switch method and why you should use it? This is what we will see in this video. But before we start, I want to mention that there's a documentation for TagScript, and it is available at docs.carl.gg. Link is in the description below. And this is where you will find all the main concepts of TagScript and a list of available blocks, because yes, TagScript is a language made with blocks, and you will see how to code using those blocks. Before you start being afraid that you are not fit for this video because you're not a developer, a programmer, or anything like that, let me tell you that you don't need to be a developer to be making custom commands with CarlBot, and I will show you how easy it can be if you just follow the steps and you follow along and you read the documentation that link in the description below. Now, to demonstrate the switch method, I will show you an example of what we'll be doing in this video, and it's a fruit command. So whenever you type exclamation point, so here it's my prefix for the bot, yours may be different, and it will be fruit. Whenever you use exclamation point fruit, you have a default emoji and a default response and no image. But whenever you type fruit, but like apple after, you will see an image of apples and a default emoji, and it will also learn how to handle multiple words for like dragon fruit. See, there were multiple words, and it still returned the thing for the dragon fruit and things like that. If you already have CarlBot in your server, you can skip this step, but I have to talk about it, of course. To make custom commands with CarlBot, you have to first invite CarlBot to your server, so you can go to carl.gg and then click that invite button. Once that's done, you will click the manage button here, and it will lead you to the list of your servers. Once you pick your server, you will arrive on this page, and then you will go to the tags page, because tags is like an alias to custom commands. Tags are custom commands, actually. And then you will click create new tag. And here you can see that you can give a name to a tag, and this is what the content will do. So here we'll name it fruit, and the content, we'll be coding it in Notepad++, because that's what I use to code. So to begin with, I want to show a simple code that people are tempted to do. I have seen that a lot in the support server that you can join, by the way, if you need help with CarlBot. I help there occasionally, and I make tutorials that I type there, and I have tutorials about the switch method there, actually, but I'm making a video for it. And there, in the Tags and Triggers channel, support channel, I see a lot of people doing this, where they have nested if blocks. So like if the first argument is equal to apple, then display this. Else, if the first argument is equal to orange, then display this. Otherwise, the default response. So while this works, it is so tedious in my opinion, and it's time consuming for no real reason. Like here you create a description variable and you have nested blocks, and it's not really easy to read. And if you want to change something when you have all the nested blocks, because here we only have like 2 options, but if you have more and more, it becomes really not intuitive. And this is why I'm making this video about the switch method. So we'll go for 3 things. The first thing is a simple switch. I'll just present to you a simple switch method. The second one will be an intermediate switch, so it's a bit more advanced. And the third one is actually an advanced switch method, where you have substring matching. You will see later what it means and how to use it. For the simple switch method, here is how it works. So basically, at first we manage our argument, which means this is, by the way, an alias to args1, right? If you just type 1, it's like your first argument. And all blocks in TagScript are wrapped with curly braces, opening and closing. And I call that in a variable, I store that, in a variable I call L1 for lowercase first argument. It's like a convention that we use. And lower is a block to set the whatever is inside it as lowercase. We'll see later why we do that. And then we have user-defined content. So this will be the content of your command. So this is for the default response, this is for when the user types apple, and this is when the user types orange. And of course, we call this, and this is what you will call in your embed. You will call the variable called description. You can name it whatever you want. I named it description because it is an embed description. But yeah, so how does it work? So the thing is, first of all, we create a variable with the prefix f dot, and it can be whatever you want. You could be doing this, right? But the problem is it could conflict with built-in TagScript blocks, because let's say that, for example, you do math like that. Let's say it's unrelated, right? Because you wouldn't do math in a fruit command, but it's just to say that there is a block called math in TagScript, and you want to avoid having things like that. So like, let's say that the user types user. If in your command you type user like this, you get the actual nickname of the user invoking the command, because that's what the user block does in TagScript, and you don't want to be doing that. So that's why, to avoid this, I put a prefix on all of my variables, and here f because it's fruit, so it made sense to me. So we do f dot, and then here for the default response, we essentially put the content of the lowercase first argument. And now I will explain why I essentially put lower here. It is because let's say that the user type apple or apple like that, or just apple. Setting the first argument to lowercase will ensure that the command always considers it as apple like that, no matter the case of the first argument. Now with that out of the way, so I was explaining that this returns the content of the lowercase first argument. So in this case, for example, if you type apple, it will contain apple. But the thing is, this only will return when there is no variable below that has a keyword that is available. For example, right now, if the person types whatever, like banana, right? And then the banana, since there is no variable called f dot banana, it will default to this thing and then return that. And that's how the switch method works, actually. It's as simple as this. And then here we call, in our description, we call f dot, and then the word of L1. So if there was a variable called something with the content of L1, it will call that. Otherwise, it will call the default response. That's as easy as that. I didn't talk about it, but I just realized that if you see those comments variables and you wonder what that is, it's a variable that I call command in all caps, so I can clearly see that it's just a command. And if you know a bit of programming, you know that most programming languages, if not all, have comments, and it's code that is not executed, but it's just for the developer to read, right? So it's just for me to know that this part is argument management, this part is the user-defined content, and this is our final data. And you can use the same method if you want in your code or not, but it just makes it clear for me so I know what that is. Although you may need comments way less if you have your variables names be a lot more descriptive. Now, to see if our code works and to see the result of it, let's actually add it as a tag. So you copy the content, you go back to your tag, and you just paste. And here, because we want it to be as an embed message, we'll click Show Embed Builder. And right here, this is where we have all of our different fields. If you are a bit confused about what this is and an embed builder and embed messages are, I have an entire video covering embed messages on my channel that you can check. And essentially here, we only want the description for now. So we will call the description variable inside of there. And as a color picker on the side color, we'll do to F3136, and that is the color of the background of Discord, just so it blends beautifully with the background. We'll do create, and now if you do fruit, you will see that you have the default response, and if you do fruit apple, we have the description of an apple. So it seems to work wonderfully. Now that this is done and that you have a better understanding of what the switch method does, I will explain the intermediate switch that allows you to put a title, a description, and an image URL depending on the user argument. So please don't be afraid of what you see on the screen. These are just URLs like image URLs, and this is like a title, and this is a description. and we use the tilde here character to just separate them, right? That's exactly the same as before, but just with some parsing and separating. That's pretty much it. The difference also that I want to mention here is that before we had only lower and the first argument, but here, let's say that, for example, you want your user to do fruit and then to have multiple words after. So for example, you want like dragon fruit, right? If you want dragon fruit right here, these are 2 words, and you want the bot to actually consider it as dragon fruit as 1 word like that. This is what the join block does. The join block replaces every space with whatever character is inside the argument here. And when you put nothing, it just replaces spaces with nothing. So it essentially joins everything together. And so whenever the user type dragon fruit like that as 2 words, it will be considered as dragon fruit as 1 word, and so it will return this, right? Okay, so it's the same as before, except right here, you can put whatever format that you want, but in that case, I find it easy, in my opinion, to have like a title, then a description, then an image URL, and I separate them with this, but you can use whatever separator you're comfortable with, as long as it doesn't conflict with other things. So like I advise to avoid slashes in this character, but otherwise, yeah, I recommend this format. To make you understand a bit better, we'll do for example, we'll add another fruit to it. So like f dot, for example, I don't know what fruit they are, like kiwi. And then you will do a kiwi emoji. And then, for example, a description, this is a kiwi, right? And you won't put an image URL because I don't want to go to internet right now and everything. But here you would put an image URL such as like this, and it has to have the .jpeg or .png thing inside of the link, otherwise it won't display and it will break the embed message. Yeah, so that's what you need to do. Whenever you need to create new content here in new fruit, you just add a new variable and you follow the format here, and that's pretty much it. I just want to mention again that I did a title, description, and image URL, but in your case, you can do whatever you want. You can even do it with the side color of the embed if you want. You can do a title, description, and then a thumbnail instead of the image URL or whatever like that. Now, for this part, it might seem frightening at first, but let me show you. Like, it's actually easy. It's just like you have largs, which is the lower arguments this time. This is why I call it that, because it's not only the first argument anymore. And right here, this is called variable parsing. And parsing means that we basically essentially select content inside of a variable up to a specific separator. In this case, we have this separator. So in f.larg, so assuming that, for example, the user typed apple, okay, it will call f apple. It will call the first part of the variable until this character. In our case, it will be that. And we store that in our embed title variable. That's all that it does. And so we do that for the description and the image. The second part will be all of that, and the third part will be all of that. Note that if you want to skip a specific thing, like for example, let's say that you saw in Kiwi I didn't want to have an image, and same for the default, you still need to put that separator character, but you don't put anything. And if, for example, Kiwi, you want no, for example, description or no title and only a description and no image, you would put this with nothing, this, and then nothing. And so in title, here would return nothing, image will return nothing, but it will still put description. This is important. Now let's go over to the advanced switch. So why would you use that in the first place? It is because it includes what we call substring matching, as opposed to strict matching. So before, in our simple and intermediate switch methods, we use strict matching. It means that if the user typed fruit apple, for example, unless they type fruit apple completely, it wouldn't go, right? If they just type that, it will just return the default response because there's no variable strictly named as apple like that without the E, and things like that. So if, for example, the type pine for pineapple because it's the short of it, or like dragon for dragon fruit, it will still not work. And this is why substring matching is actually useful in that case, because it allows to return, like this variable allows to return the full word from a shorter word of it. And you don't really have to understand exactly how all this line works. It took me quite a lot of time to figure it out, but I will explain it quite quickly. And if you don't understand, really don't worry. You can still copy paste that and replace the variables names with yours, and it will still work, okay? So first of all, when you use substring matching, the first thing to do is to create a variable, in our case, fruits, which is the list of all the available words, the available subcommands. We call them subcommands because the name of your command is fruit, and everything that we essentially type after, like the first word, is called a subcommand. This is usually what you have. For example, if you have a command called roll add and then you have the roll, this is the command, this is the subcommand. And in that case, the name of the fruit, I call that subcommand because it's a convention. So you have the list of your available subcommands right here, and you still need to create a variable for every available subcommand. So for example, let's say that we want, just like before, add the fruit kiwi. We'll just do a kiwi like that, and that will be the description of a kiwi goes here. All right, and then here, make sure that you add kiwi. Okay, so how does this line works actually? So it takes the lower argument and it replaces it with the spaced version of it. It means that it puts dot, space, and then the argument, and then space, and then dot in fruits. So for example, if the user typed orange, it would replace this as this, exactly like that. And so it is to space out things to better select orange. And then we try to find the index. Again, don't worry if you don't understand what that means. An index, it returns the position of whatever is inside it in whatever is inside after. And so the index of orange here in this would be, like normally, the index starts at 0, right? So it would be 0, 1, 2. And so it would return the 2 because it's the second element, right? And so, and in fact, orange is our second element. So it works. And then you want to call fruits at the position of our index. So basically, this will be turned into fruits 2, like that. And so it will call fruit will call fruits 2, which is orange. And by the way, this is my mistake because here it shouldn't be largs, it should be fruit, because I just realized that because we are returning, in fact, the name of the fruit, the final name of the fruit, after the substring matching is done. So you should not be using largs right here, you should be using fruit. And so right here as well, and that's it. Now let's actually use it in action, and we'll see that how it works. So you do that, you go to your fruit, you click edit, Control A, Control V, and in this case, because it was a simpler example, because it was advanced, but still, as you can see, I didn't use all that jazz here. You can still do that, right? You can still use substring matching with title, description, image URL, and separate everything. So now you know how to do that. It was just to show you how to essentially return the name of the fruit first before doing everything else. So you can combine the two, substring matching and what you saw before, but in that case, we only return the description, so it was easier to demonstrate. And so right here, we only want the description. So you have em description, we have no title, we have no image, and then you click save. Back to Discord. Now if you click fruit, and then, for example, app, you can see that it returns the description of an apple, just like we call apple. And if you type key for kiwi, for example, it will return the description of kiwi. And if you do something that doesn't exist or whatever, fruit, oh, see how it did that here? This is a problem, and I know how to fix that. So for example, because you put nothing after fruit, it defaulted to -1, because index, you have to know that the index block, essentially, when it doesn't find what's in there inside of what's after, it returns -1, the position -1. So in that case, when I type nothing, it returned the second last, because -1 is, this is 0 and this is -1 position. And so return the word pineapple. To prevent that, you can put whatever you want, any word, and I usually type it with a capital letter at the first because I know that all my subcommands from my arguments are lowercase. So I put default and then like a placeholder. A word can be whatever. Usually I put a exclamation mark because it's easy, but for this demo, I will put placeholder. And yeah, so now if you save and we edit and we do that, you can see that it will work. Default response when no available fruit is specified because actually it returned default, which doesn't exist as a subcommand here, so it returned this one. Default here can be any word, right? It's just as long as it doesn't conflict with previous things. And that's it. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it was helpful for you. I'm sorry if it was a bit long on the last part and everything, but I try to be as thorough as possible, as detailed as possible. And if you have questions, feel free to type in the comments. Some users will try to answer you, and I could answer eventually if I have time. And otherwise, please join the support server. Link is in the description below. And go into the Tags and Triggers channel, and people will help you there if you need help. And otherwise, I will be making some more videos about TagScript if this video works well. And so if that's the case, please leave a like and subscribe for more videos. Goodbye.